Hello, and welcome to Budo 101. My name is Sebastian Valila, and I have the honor of serving as president of both the Florida Budokan, a Japanese martial arts center, and the Kashimon Nihon Bijutsu Kaikan, Arching Oaks Japanese Cultural Center, where we preserve and share the tradition of Japan's rich cultural and martial heritage. In today's session, we will begin by exploring a historical overview of Japan's political, military, and social development. Understanding the history of Japan is essential because to know where Budo is heading, we must first understand the world from which it emerged. In the second part, we will turn our focus to the foundational principles of Budo. Over the course of three modules, you will learn the meaning and the spirit of the dojo, the essence of Budo, what it is and what it is not, and the stages of learning that every martial artist experiences on their path. You'll also take two short quizzes at the end of both sessions to reinforce your understanding. This program is just the beginning. Budo 101 is the first of a four-series course designed to guide you from beginner to advanced understanding. Budo 101, this course, is the historical and foundational principles. Budo 201, technical principles. Budo 301, strategic principles. And Budo 401 is the capstone course where we will integrate and apply all aspects of Budo at the advanced and unified level. This journey is designed to give both martial artists and enthusiasts a clear, story driven introductions to the roots of Budo while preparing you to engage with its technical, strategic, and philosophical depth in later courses. Let's begin the journey together. A historical overview of Japan's political and social development. Early imperial authority and Shinto. Historians believe that by the beginning of the Common Era, Japan was organized under early chieftains who combined political and religious leadership. Over time, the emperor came to be regarded as a descendant of the sun goddess Amaterasu, a central belief system of Shinto, Japan's indigenous belief system. While emperors held symbolic and religious authority, real political power in early centuries was fragmented, with local clans often exercising autonomy. Rise of the samurai and feudal lords. By the medieval period, Japan had developed into feudal society dominated by powerful regional lords, daimyo. These daimyo maintained private armies of samurai, a hereditary warrior class. Samurai enjoyed privileges such as the right to bear two swords, the long katana and the short wakazai, symbols of their social rank. Alongside their military role, samurai cultivated a strict ethos, later known as Bushido, the way of the warrior, emphasizing loyalty, duty, and honor. While romanticized in later eras, samurai history also included brutality, political intrigue, and constant warfare between rival domains. Seppuku and warrior culture. One unique feature of samurai culture was seppuku, ritual suicide, performed to preserve honor when facing defeat or disgrace. It was highly ritualized and often assisted by a second, who ensured a swift death. While restricted to the warrior elite, it became emblematic of the samurai strict code of honor. The Age of Warring States and the Shogunate. From the 15th to the 16th centuries, Japan was embroiled in nearly constant civil war. Rival daimyo competed for supremacy, and in this struggle, the position of shogun, military commander ruling in the name of the emperor, emerged as the de facto ruler of Japan. Leaders such as Oda Nobunaga, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, and Tokugawa Ieyasu gradually consolidated power. Hideyoshi launched invasions of Korea in the 1590s, which ultimately failed but left lasting scars. Some records mention the practice of taking human remains, such as ears or noses, as war trophies, later buried in Kyoto in the Mimizuka Mound. Encounter with Christianity and isolation. In the 16th century, Portuguese traders and Jesuit missionaries introduced firearms and Christianity to Japan. Christianity attracted converts, included some daimyo, and by the early 1600s, as many as 200,000 Japanese were baptized. However, the Tokugawa shogunate viewed Christianity as a destabilizing influence. By the 1630s, it banned the religion, expelled missionaries, and suppressed converts, sometimes brutally. This coincided with Japan's policy of sakoku, closed country, which restricted foreign contact almost entirely for almost 2 centuries. During this period, Japan indeed experienced internal stability under the Tokugawa shogunate, but limited exposure to global developments such as industrialization and scientific technology. The arrival of Commodore Perry and the Meiji Restoration. In 1853, U.S. Commodore Matthew Perry arrived with a fleet demanding the opening of Japanese ports to trade. Realizing their military weakness compared to Western powers, Japanese leaders initiated rapid reforms, causing many internal struggles. In 1868, the Meiji Restoration restored direct rule under the emperor and abolished the shogunate. The government dismantled the samurai class, introduced universal military conscription, and adopted Western technologies and institutions while reshaping Shinto into a state ideology centered on emperor worship. Modernization and military strength. During the Meiji era from 1868 to 1912, Japan industrialized at extraordinary speed. It established railroads, telegraphs, a modern army and navy, and a constitution. The government selectively studied Western powers, British naval models, German military organization, and Western parliamentary structures. Education was made compulsory, literacy rates rose sharply, and new universities were founded. However, modernization was tightly controlled by the state, which emphasized loyalty to the emperor and nationalism as unifying ideals. Japan's first major test as a modernized nation came in the First Sino-Japanese War from 1894 to 1895, fought over influence in Korea. Japan's victory shocked the world. It defeated Qing China, secured Taiwan as its first colony, and asserted itself as a rising power in East Asia. This marked the beginning of Japanese imperial expansion. The Russo-Japanese War and global recognition. Japan's growing ambition led to the conflict with another major power, Russia. The Russo-Japanese War from 1904 to 1905 centered on control of Manchuria and Korea. Against expectations, Japan defeated Russia both on land and at sea. The first time an Asian nation had defeated a great European power in modern warfare. This victory boosted Japan's prestige worldwide and signaled the arrival of a new military power in the international order. In 1910, Japan formally annexed Korea. World War I and international treaties. When World War I began in 1914, Japan sided with Britain and the United States. It seized German possessions in China's Shandong Peninsula and the islands in the Pacific, Marianas, Marshalls, and the Carolines. After the war, Japan participated in the Versailles Peace Conference in 1919 and joined the League of Nations. However, its bid for a racial equality clause in the League Covenant was rejected, fueling resentment among Japanese leaders. In the 1920s, Japan experienced both democratization and growing tensions. The era known as the Taisho democracy from 1912 to 1926 saw political parties and parliamentary government gain influence. Yet economic inequality, rural poverty, and the influence of powerful industrial families known as zaibatsu created social strains. Japan signed international agreements including the Washington Naval Treaty in 1922, limiting its navy, but many nationalists viewed these restrictions as humiliating. The rise of militarism and expansionism. The Great Depression of the 1930s devastated Japan's economy, intensifying demands for overseas expansion to secure resources. The military grew increasingly dominant in politics, often overriding civilian governments. In 1931, Japanese officers staged a Mukden incident in Manchuria, using it as a pretext to occupy the region. The puppet state of Manchukuo was established under the former King Emperor Hu Yi. The League of Nations condemned the aggression, but Japan withdrew from the League in 1933, isolating itself diplomatically. By the mid-1930s, ultra-nationalist groups and secret societies exerted influence, and political assassinations established civilian governments. The military entrenched itself further, claiming to act directly under the emperor's will. The road to war with the West. As Japan expanded further into Asia, it faced increasing tensions with the Western powers. In 1940, Japan signed the Tripartite Pact with Germany and Italy, aligning itself with the Axis powers. Seeking to secure vital resources like oil, rubber, and tin, Japan moved into French Indochina in 1940 and 1941. In response, the United States, Britain, and the Netherlands imposed economic sanctions, including an oil embargo. Facing resource shortages, Japanese leaders concluded that the war with the United States was inevitable. Military planners hoped to cripple the U.S. Pacific Fleet in a surprise attack, buying more time to consolidate Japan's Greater East Asia co-prosperity sphere. On December 7, 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, bringing the United States into World War II. War of attrition and rising costs. As the war dragged on, Japan struggled with shortages of oil, raw materials, and shipping. The U.S. adopted an island-hopping strategy by passing heavily fortified islands to capture key positions, steadily advancing towards Japan. Allied submarines and bombers devastated Japanese shipping, cutting off vital supplies. By 1944, the war had turned against Japan. Allied bombing raids targeted Japanese cities and industry, devastating urban centers. The government mobilized all resources for the war effort. Men were conscripted, women and students worked in factories, and propaganda emphasized sacrifice for the emperor. The concept of death before surrender was promoted, fueling the use of kamikaze or suicide attacks against Allied ships beginning in late 1944. While symbolically powerful, these tactics could not halt the Allied advances. On August 6, 1945, the United States dropped the first atomic bomb on Hiroshima, killing tens of thousands instantly. On August 9th, a second bomb was dropped on Nagasaki. That same day, the Soviet Union declared war on Japan and invaded Manchuria, overwhelming Japanese forces. Faced with atomic devastation, Soviet entry into the war, and imminent invasion, Emperor Hirohito intervened to end the conflict. On August 15, 1945, he announced Japan's surrender in a historic radio broadcast, the first time the Japanese public had ever heard his voice. The formal surrender was signed on the deck on the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay on September 2, 1945. Japan's defeat ended its imperial ambitions and marked the collapse of militarism. The Allied occupation from 1945 to 1952, led by General Douglas MacArthur, dismantled Japan's war machine, introduced democratic reforms, and established a pacifist constitution. While the war left immense destruction and suffering, post-war reconstruction laid the foundation for Japan's transformation into a modern democratic state and one of the world's leading economies. It has forged a strong alliance with the U.S. and shaped the world through technology, anime, and innovation. While debates over wartime memory remain, Japan today stands as a symbol of resilience, pacifism, and modernization. For centuries, Japan has been home to warriors whose lives balanced between the sword and the spirit. From the battlefield to the temple, from warlords to monks, the martial arts of Japan evolved into something far greater than fighting. This is the story of Budo, the martial way, a tradition that transforms combat into culture, violence into peace, and discipline into a lifelong path. My name is Sebastian Valina, and I've dedicated my life to studying and teaching the traditional martial arts of Japan, karate, Iaido, and Kyudo. For me, martial arts are not just techniques of combat, they're a living philosophy, one that shapes the way we think, move, and live. In this course, I want to share with you the essence of Budo, the martial way. Together, we'll look beyond the sword and the bow, beyond the dojo walls, to discover how these traditions can transform not only the body, but the spirit. This is more than history. It's a path of discipline, of peace, and of self-realization. This is Budo. The place you first see when looking to train is called dojo. The dojo is more than just a training space. It is a place where the path of martial arts, Budo, comes to life. To understand Budo, we must first understand the dojo. The term dojo originally described the meditation halls of Buddhist temples. Over time, it became the heart of martial training. The dojo is not a gym. It is something deeper, neither entirely religious nor entirely secular. It is a place where the physical and the spiritual meet. When you enter a Japanese dojo, the first thing you want to take notice of where the tokonoma may be. Above the tokonoma, you have the kamidana, or the god shelf. On the east or the west walls is where it's typically located, but it could be located in front of you, all depending on how the dojo layout is. Depending on where the tokonoma is, you want to enter on your opposite leg. Left wall, so I'm entering on my right leg. I'm going to take a short bow and enter. Okay, so once we enter the dojo, we want to take note that this area here, typically where the sensei is at the start of class, this area is called shomen, or the front, where the kamidana is located and the tokonoma, this wooden square area or rectangular area where the scrolls are, perhaps a picture of the sensei may be, flag, so be it. Every dojo is different. As we come across, this area here is called the joseki, and it's the upper side. To the left of the sensei, the senior students are located here, and typically your assistant instructor will also be positioned in this area, facing the door. As we continue to turn, looking at the third side of the dojo, of three or four, this is called the shimoza, or the lower seat. This is where the beginner students are generally located, towards the back of the line. Depending again on the style, sometimes it could be in the front. All depends on the dojo etiquette. And this last area here where we came in is called the shimoseki, or the lower side. And these are where the junior students are located. So let's take a look at a dojo layout. Courtesy is not decoration. It is the foundation of learning. As Gijin Funakoshi said, courage without courtesy is violence. Respect allows true training to begin. Without it, learning stops. Here we have our student Kayoko, who's going to demonstrate the proper way to bow. First, you want to make sure that your neck and your shoulders are in line. Mimi, kata, and koshi. Ears, shoulder, and hips are in one line. Then you begin to bow, keep your neck and back straight as her hands just relax, moving forward, and her fingertips touch the tops of her knees. Then she comes back up straight and stops. Seisa is more than just sitting. It is readiness, stability, and humility. From Seisa, one can strike, evade, or bow. The Budoka learns that even in kneeling, combat and courtesy are one. The student will demonstrate how to take Seisa from the standing position.
Extending her left leg or right leg dependent on your art, she will let her knee touch the ground at the point of the other foot, then retract the forward leg. She places her toes from the active to the passive position. The student will now demonstrate from the active position to the passive position once again. She'll return her feet in order to stand up back into the active position, also known as kiza, to then return her leg to her knee and stand up in the same manner she sat down. The sensei is not simply a teacher, but a guide along the path. Sensei means one born before. He shows the way, but does not walk it for you. His role is to help students surpass him, so the art itself continues to grow. You are always a student. The journey begins at Seito, a life companion with less experience. Over time, through dedication and humility, the student becomes Deshi, the apprentice. The Deshi is like a younger brother accepted into the family of Budo. A full cup cannot take more tea. So too with the mind. Junanshin, flexible mind, means readiness to accept new learning. Without it, progress stops. With it, the student grows beyond self. The dojo is a place of contradictions, peaceful yet violent, humble yet powerful, at times laughter, at times life and death. The forge of the dojo transforms both body and spirit. Like steel under hammer, it tempers us into something strong, useful, and whole. The dojo is not merely a hall of training. It is where the path begins and continues for life. In bowing, kneeling, and learning, we discover that the greatest battles are within ourselves, and through Budo, we find harmony through body, mind, and spirit. When most people hear the word Budo, they think of martial arts, karate, judo, kendo, and so on. But Budo is something far larger than a set of combat skills. Let's begin with the first part of Budo, Bu. Bu is often taken to mean military or martial, but let's break it down. On the left, Tomaru, to stop, and on the right, Hoko, a spear. Together, they form Bu, to stop the spear. The true spirit of Bu is restraint, the discipline to control aggression and not unleash it. The second part of Budo is Do, the path. Do is more than a road, it is a journey, a way of life, a moral discipline. When we separate Do, we have the first part on the left, Shinyu, to advance. On the right, we have Kubi, head or neck. As such, Do points toward a method of alignment with nature, with harmony and truth as you move forward. When we bring Bu and Do together, we get Budo, the martial way. Every culture has its warriors from ancient time to today, the hoplite soldiers of ancient Greece to today's SEAL Team 6. But Japan's Budo transformed warfare into philosophy. It's not simply about war or weapons or winning fights. Budo is about the path of life itself. A discipline that stretches from the battlefield to the meditation hall. Budo as we know it was not born in peace, it came from war. The samurai practiced Bujutsu, brutal, efficient arts of survival. But after Sekigahara in 1600, Japan entered an age of peace. The warrior's role shifted, the arts of killing became arts of refinement. Bujutsu evolved into Budo. Combat became culture. Survival became self-mastery. To understand Budo, we must first understand Bushido, the way of the warrior. Bushido stressed loyalty, courage, discipline, but to some it could also mean blind obedience. In the 20th century, Bushido was twisted into propaganda and went too far, fueling fanaticism. Yet within its harsher teachings lies truth, discipline, self-control, and the pursuit of virtue, qualities that live on in Budo today. So what is Budo today? It is not about blood and steel, but about harmony in the dojo, in the home, in the self. Every strike, every cut, every arrow becomes a meditation. As Sun Tzu wrote, to subdue the enemy without fighting is the acme of skill. And so we discover the highest victory is mastery of oneself. For centuries, warriors and scholars in Japan pursued not only skill in combat, but also the cultivation of character, philosophy, and spirit. This is the essence of Budo, the martial way. In this module, we'll journey through the stages of learning where training the body becomes inseparable from training the mind. The first stage of training is called Gyogyo, the doing. Like learning the violin or flower arranging, martial arts begins with copying. You repeat, you mimic, you endure the frustrations of clumsy steps. It is repetitive, sometimes monotonous, yet essential. At this stage, you don't yet understand. You imitate, but every repetition plants the seed of deeper knowledge. Our next stage of learning is Shugyo. In Shugyo, training hardens into discipline. You no longer ask simply how to move, but why. This is when you decide if you truly want to follow Budo seriously. The word Shugyo means more than just training. It means austere practice, a pursuit of truth through self-discipline. When training breaks through into natural movement, you enter the Jutsu stage. Here, freedom emerges. Techniques are no longer rigid blocks but living clay. You can change, adapt, and flow, interpreting movements in real combat. Kata becomes more than preservation, it becomes transformation. At the highest stage lies Do. It is no longer about technique or even skill. It's about life itself. The contradictions dissolve, conflict becomes peace, duality becomes unity. In this stage, the true mastery of outer technique reflects an inner mastery of self. Shuhari describes the evolution of learning. Shu, to obey and protect tradition. Ha, to break, to explore beyond. And Ri, to separate, to transcend even your teacher. It is a cycle, not a line, returning again and again, each time at a higher level. This is where the student becomes independent and in time, perhaps, a master. Three concepts from Budo found their way even into the Japanese industry. Muri, forcing without reason. Mura, inconsistency. And Muda, waste. In the dojo, these mean empty technique. In life, they are inefficiency. To master Budo is to cut away waste and live with clarity, signal over noise.
True mastery was never about combat. The ideal of Bunburyodo, balancing the pen and the sword, was cherished across Asia. A warrior without intellect becomes brute force. A scholar without action is crippled. The true Budoka seeks both wisdom and strength, study and discipline.
Through these stages, from doing to discipline, from art to way, from obedience to independence, and from sword to pen, we see that Budo is not about fighting, it's about becoming fully human.